Today's Learning to Earn channel, I'd like to visit with you about nozzles, diesel fuel injection testing. So we're going to demonstrate a diesel fuel nozzle nozzle-rater, and we're going to actually test a couple of injectors. So this particular nozzle-rater is by OTC, and it's $500 for this tester, and then you need to buy the kit that actually attaches the nozzles. So the important thing is going to be able to attach the nozzles. It takes a lot of different adapters to get two different types of nozzles. We have enough nozzle adapters to be able to do all but this particular one. I don't have a way of testing that one today, so we're going to be testing two different styles. So we're going to be doing a direct injection nozzle, and then we're going to be doing an indirect injection nozzle. So those will be the two that we're going to demonstrate. So I've already hooked this one up and kind of purged it. So we're going to go through the process. So we're going to show you what a good one looks like, and then we'll go through and show you some other ones. So here's our gauge. Back here is a flow control. So we're going to open the system up and drain the system back before we open it up. We got to remember that this is high pressure. We're going to be up at 2,500 psi. So we'll make sure we have glasses on. We want to make sure, because we're working with diesel fuel, that we protect our skin, and we don't ever want to be able to put our hands under here. It's going to be coming out here and it's going to damage us. So we'll be very careful about working with it. The other problem with this particular setup is it creates a lot of fumes. We're trying to atomize the fuel, so it's going to be fogging up here. And so we have a fan here behind us. So when we start testing, we're going to turn it on. It's going to get a little noisier, but hopefully it'll still come through pretty good. So diesel testers, we're going to be testing for 4 different things. First thing I want to know is what pressure will it open at. So this particular one, when we test this, should pop off around 2,500, real close to that. So I'm going to be coming up and seeing it should come up and boom, should pop off. So I'm looking for that. Then I'm going to be looking for pattern. I want to know what it looks like. This is an indirect injection, so this one's going to have a real fine mist that's going to be going straight down. So it's a very conical shape and very narrow. And I put this black plastic behind it so that you could see it. Since it's kind of a white color, it shows up better with the black. So that's kind of why I put that there. And then I want to know is sound. I'm listening to the chatter. What sound does it make? I'm really looking for kind of a high-pitched squeal sound or a chatter sound, and we'll kind of get that. We're not getting exactly what I was hoping to hear out of this particular one. I don't think this is a perfect nozzle. It's a pretty decent nozzle. It's not perfect, and that's why I'm not getting the chatter. The fourth test that I'm going to be looking for is a drip test. So I'm going to bring the pressure up. It's 2,500, so I'm going to bring it up about 2,400, 2,350, and I'm going to try to hold or maintain that pressure, and I should not have a drip for 10 seconds. So I'm going to hold it for 10 seconds. If it drips, then my nozzle is leaking. I will also kind of see that my pattern might be screwed up and my chatter's gone away when I also drip. So they kind of all go together. So if I don't drip and I have a good pattern and my pressure is where it should be, usually I get my chatter that I'm looking for. So we're going to go ahead and turn on the fan, and we're going to go ahead and pop this. So I've got this closed. So first thing I want to do is I just want to kind of clear the throat. I want to clear and purge all the air out of the system. So you always want to start by really pumping it pretty fast and hard and getting any air out. And then I'm going to slow down. And when it's in the machine, it's going to be popping like that. You can see how thin that line is. There's not a lot of pressure there. So I'm up here looking at our pressures. We're right there at 2,500 at pop, 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 pop. And it should be a nice, clean, crisp pop, pop, pop. And the pressure will drop and immediately shut back off. So I'm looking at my pattern. My pattern is a fairly narrow line going down, so it's a pretty nice pattern. I don't see anything spraying off to the side, and I don't see a real HUD. So it's a fairly even system there. So I want to wipe it off because I don't want leakage from up here to mess up my drip test. So I'm going to bring this up to 2,400, And 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And I don't have any drips. So just that quick, I'm able to test that injector. So it's a pretty fast test, doesn't take a lot of time to do. So you can actually go through the test pretty quick. So if you have several of them in a row and they're all the same, you just relieve the pressure because I don't want to crack that and drop it. So I'm just going to pull this one off. And this is a double-ended nut, so it actually sucks the bottom up as it's screwing the bottom off. I'll stick another one on, so I'll just get it started. And then when I tighten this nut, it's actually sucking it together. Close my shut off over here. Yep, gotta get some ventilation going on so I'm not breathing this toxic stuff. So I'm going to try to get the air out of this one. So I'm pumping it several times. And then you'll notice that my pressure is really low. And that when you look at this, you can see that there are lines. So I don't know if you zoom in, can you see it pretty well? I'm not really getting my chatter that I'm looking for. Pressure is low, and I have a tendency to want to stream. When this thing is at full injection and you're putting a lot of fuel out there, it's going to have that stream, and you can see how the streams kind of move around. So there's an example of one where that nozzle is not a very good nozzle. I would not want to put this back into a machine. If I did, it's going to shoot into the pre-combustion chamber. Pre-combustion chamber, you're going to have streams that are going to hit the walls. That wall is going to be wet. It's going to slow down the burn time, and it's going to affect your combustion. You're going to see a lot of soot build up and a lot of carbon build up, and it's going to cause a lot of problems in your cylinder. So I'm going to have low power because unless the fuel atomizes and burns, I don't get any energy out of it. So I have low power, and I'm going to have a lot of soot build up, a lot of carbon build up because that stuff's going to be hot. It's going to start caking or coking, and it's going to have carbon build up. So those would all be bad things. I would want to try to clean it so I could put it in some fuel. I could clean them up. If it fixes it, great. If it doesn't fix it, then I would replace the tip. So it's pretty simple. Just buy a new tip. Tips come in a little package. Looks like this. You have a nozzle and the pintle, the needle is in the middle, and then this outer housing. And these are about 35 to 50 bucks for this particular one. And so you would just replace it. It comes with diesel fuel in it when they're new. This is a used one. It'll come with some diesel fuel in it. I would take it out. I would put it in diesel fuel. I would put the nozzle in diesel fuel, and I would assemble it in diesel fuel so that I have nothing that would get on my gloves. I would wash my gloves off in the diesel fuel. We really shouldn't even have this rag on the table. So you'll notice that we're going to be using white paper towels. So any kind of red rag, you touching the rag actually puts lint on my glove. So you don't want red rags anywhere on your table. So you would rinse it, put it, assemble it, stick it in there. So very critical then. So that's a direct injector. Shooting down here pretty narrow. Did I loosen that? Nope. Didn't. So now I'm going to do an indirect. That was an indirect, I'm sorry. And now I'm going to do a direct injection. That's what I was thinking.
And this one will spray all over the place.
And this one's going to shoot out, so we're going to have to lift it up. This was our good nozzle here, has the yellow lines on it. And so when you pull one off and you've got it tested, you want to make sure that you cap them. This particular cap is dirty. So putting a dirty cap on a nice clean injector kind of defeats the purpose of putting a cap on it. So you want a clean cap, and you want to cap that right away. You can see on this one we have a rubber cap on the tip. That's protecting that tip. If you happen to bump the table, it's not going to damage it. So having some kind of protection on it is going to be critical. Before I assemble this one back in the machine, I would rinse the thing and get that anything that might have been settling on, any dust that was in the air, any lint that was on my glove or anything, I would rinse it off. The other problem is, this isn't the right nozzle, but the pipe that you have, typically you paint the engine. When you take it apart, the paint chips, and you have little paint chips all over. And so you want to make sure that you rinse everything off and get all those paint chips off and then assemble it. So paint chips become a big hazard. So we're going to do direct injection now. So we just happen to get lucky, and this particular nozzle holder was the same for both of them. Oops. So, close my nozzle. So, I know I can't. I just wanted to purge it before we demonstrated it. Okay. We'll try to go like this. Get my fingers out of the way. And that way I'm not going to get sprayed. And so I'm going to cover it up for the camera, but I want you to focus on this first. So I'm going to show you the opening pressure. You notice we're up at 3,000. Direct injection, the injection pressure is going to be higher. When I anticipate it being higher, your tech manual will tell you that it's higher. You would be following your tech manual for what that should be. So much higher, and I'll kind of come down here, and you'll see just see a lot of fog going on out there. But can you see it in the? So can you see that, Scott? So we have one shooting this way, I have one shooting that way. I think there's 4. So I have one coming this way and one coming that way. The one that's coming this way is much smaller as far as volume wise. There's not as much coming this way. So this injector may actually be sitting at a slight angle with this piece coming back. So I don't know how it sits in the engine itself. So, okay. So same thing, I'm looking for a drip test. I want to make sure that I don't have anything running down to screw me up. So I'm going to bring it up. Oops. Try to bring it up here about 2,700. And we're going to hold it. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and no drip there. So this is just one that we have for examples for you, but still no drip there, and that's a good. So this actually was a pretty good injector, and I just pulled it out of our cabinet over there. So. Any questions while I'm swapping this out? It's a pretty fast test as long as you have the right tools. It's going to take you longer to set it up than it is to actually do the test itself. The tools are not very cheap. You can take it to any diesel repair shop and they will do this for you. I think they charge around $25 to test it. So.
That tester also work on the gasoline?
No. This is just a diesel. This is just a diesel fuel injector tester. So gas ones usually are electronically controlled, so you need some electronic way of controlling it, and the pressures on the gas are much lower. So I'm going to hold this up here. We'll look at our pressure. I can see we're dripping, so somewhere I must be loose. So our pressures are opening at 3,000, so comparing the two together, our opening pressures are about the same. So bring this down so you can see it. Nice and crisp. Bring it up here for my drip test. I see drip that's taking place, but I see a lot of fuel up here. So is it dripping from the tip? So you can see how I'm using a paper towel to stop the upper fuel from coming down. So my tip is not dripping, it's something on the top that's not seating right. So I don't really have a drip there. So you can see how when that pops off, and it's just nice and atomized. So, and in the diesel fuel engine, when you're running the engine, it's going to be going boom, 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 boom. It's going to be a nice, crisp system like that. So that system's going to smack it, and it's going to pop. And it's atomized.
So when you're doing that, is it like the way you're doing that, is that kind of rough on that?
It's going to be tough on this, especially where this thing's $500, but even $500, this is a pretty cheap. We've already had to replace the piston in here because it went bad, started leaking pretty bad.
So you're supposed to just do even flows, right?
Well, I mean, part of it is a quick. You want to do a quick because it should pop, 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 pop. And so if I hit it with my hand, it's probably not really good on the tester, but anyway.
You're up at almost 3,000 psi.
Yeah, so kind of feel like this and going is pretty good. So it's probably easier on the tool itself, yes. So pretty simple test. Hang on one second here. Pretty simple test, pretty easy to do, pretty easy to set up. It's mobile and portable. And when I'm done, I know that my injectors are going to be good before I go put them back in my engine. If they tested bad and I didn't want to take the time to rebuild them, I would send them off. And so every injector, when it's removed, and periodically, it should be kind of like changing spark plugs. You should pull your injectors every 2 years. You should be pulling them and actually testing them, make sure they're good. If the nozzle starts to leak, it's going to affect the performance, and it's actually going to wash down the cylinder, and it's going to shorten the life of your engine. So, you know, checking your injectors really becomes more of a service, a normal routine service, not every month, maybe not every year, but every 2 years, every 3 years would be a very good thing to go pull your injectors, top test to make sure they're all good, reseal them all back up. So over servicing, overdoing it, I increase the chance of getting paint and dirt and all that stuff in there. If I do take them off, I want to make sure that I change all of the seals. There will be some brass washers in here. There's a heat shield cup that's in here. There are brass washers up here. The brass or the copper or aluminum, different materials, they all crush. Once they crush, they don't expand back out. So never pull one out without having a set of replacement copper, aluminum, brass, whatever they're going to be made out of, and they're made out of all of them. So always have a set of those there. So if they have O-rings on there, because some of them will have O-rings, then always replace the O-rings. This particular one here has an O-ring on the bottom inside. Always replace it, because if it leaks, you're going to be taking it back apart. So anticipate that's part of the service. So, and then when you take them apart, always have a clean cap, always seal them up, don't drop them. If you're going to clean them, we have brass brushes, never use a steel brush. You can put some fuel on here and you can actually clean the tip of it off. This particular one, when I first got it, had a bunch of carbon built up on the tip of it. And so you can use a brass brush. A brass brush will not actually damage the metal, but it will actually clean all the carbon off really good. So that would be a normal practice. And again, only brass brushes. Okay? Any other questions? That is diesel fuel nozzle testing in our Learning to Earn channel. Thank you.